Welcome to the Nerd for No Reason podcast. I'm one of your fantastic hosts, Mark, and today we got a good old swashbuckling hell of a time for you. Because that's what this show is going to be about for the next, I don't know. I'm Mark.
I'm Raven. I was thinking about doing a weird siren mermaid screech, but then I was like, that would be awful. Can you imagine sitting there and that starts blasting through your eardrums? No,
Kavik would
absolutely
have been,
not.
you would have heard Kavik in the background.
He would have been howling with me over there screaming, Mom, what's going on?
Oh, we're doing the thing. We're doing the thing.
He's so weird. I don't know what it is, but at some point I realized, like a few years ago, that Chris and I would like play fight, and I'd be like, I don't want to say it too loud because he's over here, but if I was like, Chris, stop, and like I did it like just in a specific manner, this motherfucker would come to my defense and he'd start like barking and screaming at Chris, and it was always so funny. So yeah, he's so easy to just get riled up. And
That's
that's living with a husky. Man. What's going on, dude? What's up?
Not much, man. Just you know, hanging out, living the life. Been working on some 3D prints today, and that's nice, like personal project type stuff, so that's cool. Finally working on my Voltron statue that I've been working off and on all year long, and it's just now am I to a point where I'm like, let me sit down and really put some time in this thing. So, and I genuinely don't think I've like all the pieces that I'd already printed don't look as good as my new printer. So I printed them like, months and months ago. And now I'm just like, I might as well just go ahead and just reprint it. Like the part, because there's some parts that I know I'm going to have to do a lot of post-processing to. And I was just like, man, it would save me so much time if I just went ahead and just reprinted these things instead of trying to like sand this and do this and forget it. I'll just reprint it. So yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, if like, something like that, essentially, if things would like fit better or not, like compared to your old stuff versus your new stuff, but interesting. So
Well,
what do you do with like your old stuff? Like, is there anything you can do with it to like, I don't know. In my head, I'm thinking of it as like that stupid Connect Sand where you can just like mash it all down and just reuse it. But I know that's probably not
No,
as much of a thing.
so like with all the old scraps and bad parts and everything else that I have now, like I've got these silicone molds. So now, because like the big problem with anyone who does any kind of 3D printing is you have scraps, you have trash, there's nothing you can do about it. And some people like just collect it in the hopes that they can do something with it. So, and I was this way before too, where I just had a box next to the printer, and every time that, I pulled something off the plate or I had these little bits and bobs and scraps and everything else, I'd throw it in the box, and then I'd get mad because I'd have to throw it away and I wouldn't be able to do anything with it. Well, I saw on TikTok that someone bought basically these skull silicone molds, and you can take the filament, put it in like a 400-degree oven, and it'll melt in the molds.
Okay.
But it takes a long time to do it.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there constantly adding little bit by little bit by little bit of this, this filament into these molds. And when it's done, you essentially have like this super solid, I mean, it's like a cue ball.
Yeah. It's compact.
It is super compact. And it's a great little way, and I'll just take them to work and be like, if you want one, take one. It's cool because it's trash anyway. So, so
That's
I need to
fun.
I need to get some more molds so I have like a little bit of variety. But
Yeah.
but no, it
Especially
is
for
pretty.
Christmas coming up. You could probably make some fun little, I don't know what you could make. Some snowflakes? Something like that.
That's a good idea.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is, and it's a great way for me to reuse old filament. So because they haven't worked out the technology where you can recycle it back into usable filament, which seems like the thing that someone would figure out how to do.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
What is filament? Is it like a plastic type thing?
yeah, it is. It's called
So
well
you
the
guys are over here putting plastic back in our landfill and in our oceans. Wow.
so the thing behind that is this type of acid is called polylactic acid, PLA, and supposedly, don't quote me on this because I haven't researched it at all. Besides looking at a few little blurbs here and there, so take all of this with a grain of salt. But apparently, you can use this plastic; it biodegrades relatively fast. So it's not like styrofoam or other stuff. Like some people take it and use it for mulch. Some people use it for this. Like you
Oh,
can
okay.
basically shred it and it will decompose relatively fast. So that's nice, or at least that's what I heard. But I feel like whoever cracks the code on being able to say, okay, we have figured out a way to shred the plastic and remelt it and re-extrude it into a usable roll of filament for for us to sell back to the public is going to be incredibly rich.
Loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if there was a service that I could send it to, and they say, because at one point there was, and they immediately got inundated with so much orders, they were like, no more. Like they were live for like a week, and it was just some dude in his garage. And after a week, he was like, can't do no more.
Oh my God. Oh,
But he was like, if you send me 3 kilograms of filament, I will give you a roll back. And I was like, all right,
interesting.
cool. So, of course, uh, the second he went live, everyone was like, here's my stuff. And after a week, he was like, I am backed up. I'll be working on this for months. So, no more. I can't do it. It's basically like me and my wife can't do it. If you send it in, you'll get your filament in probably about 2 months. I promise I'll get it to you. So, yeah,
Dang.
there needs to be like an industrial way to do it. So,
Yeah. Interesting. You know what, Mark? Make that happen.
man,
I believe in you.
I have a bunch of good ideas that I would love to see come to fruition. That's one of them. There's all kinds of like dumb little app ideas that I think would be super fun and would sell like $1 bajillion worth of ad space. And I
Oh
just
yeah.
don't know how to like do any of that kind of stuff. Like I've had an idea for years, like the for a scavenger hunt app, because I think that would be super cool if you and your friends are like, man, we don't know what to do, and you download this app and it syncs up with your GPS, and you go to all these different places. You get, you set up a scavenger hunt. What's the reward? I don't know, but you get the corporate tie-in where it's like, oh yeah, go to a scavenger hunt, go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac and scan the QR code, and then bloop, and then you get your next clue to go somewhere else. So then, like a place like Taco Bell, who has like Taco Bell, Dairy Queen, Pizza Hut, all under that same umbrella, you could do all of that, you know, team up with movie companies or whatever, and be like, oh yeah, go to Taco Bell first and scan the QR code, and then go to the movies or something, you know.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fun way to incentivize people to get out and about too. But that's just me.
I actually did something that was kind of like that when uh was my family, we did like a big vacation to Cape Cod like a few years ago. And I think the actual city of Cape Cod had something like that, that you downloaded some app on your phone. I only remember that we downloaded an app because my aunt is like really weird about having apps on her phone. She's like, I don't want to have to download shit, blah, 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 blah. But you had to do it. And so she downloaded it so we could all just wander around, and we did like little teams. And yeah, it was pretty fun. So I could like definitely understand how it could be like a good idea, especially in like cities that are super walkable, or like, if you use like little downtown areas where there's like a lot of like tourist attractions and stuff like that. I could see that being a really smart idea to help bring more like people, even just to like certain communities, to be like, oh, I've never seen this before. This is pretty cool. Shit like that. Dig it.
I can dig it.
For a minute, I swore I lost you. You were just so quiet. And I was like, I'm just talking to myself right now.
I'm locked in, dude.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Autobots roll out.
Roll out. All right. You ready to talk about this movie? Because I'm ready to talk about this movie. I wish Chris was here because I want to get his opinion on this too. We might have to like stitch in some post audio of Chris, because I got a feeling me and him are kind of on the same page. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, I don't know. Let's talk about The Lighthouse from, is it 2019 that this came out?
yeah.
Nice. Starring the ever lovely vampire himself, Robert Pattinson, and Willem Dafoe.
R. Pats and Willem Dafoe.
Just two hotties hanging out.
Right. Edward the Vampire and the Green Goblin.
Hey,
and his Green Goblin.
Yeah.
So, all right. Raven, what did you think of The Lighthouse? Because this was your idea, so I'm putting this one on you first.
It sure was my idea. So I had started to watch this movie at one point, like a few months ago. I didn't get like super far into it because by that point I was like, yo, I'm actually really tired and I should just go to bed. So I kept meaning to pick it back up and just never did. So I was like, you know what? Mark's over here asking me. So I was like, let's do it. I really like the style of this movie. Is this an A24 movie? I believe it is. Anyways, I really like black and white movies. I love watching old movies with my grandparents and stuff like that. And I grew up on the like classic black and white horror films. So for me, this felt nostalgic. Like even if it's like a little weird, a little kooky crazy. I like seeing mermaids. I like seeing Robert Pattinson, you know, do another really impressive freaking character where he's got a whole voice that it's just so crazy to me to see that, we watched the first Twilight movie where his voice was very unsteady of trying to have an American accent, and now he's just out here doing the wildest stuff with his voice, and it's just amazing to me. This movie's crazy. I liked it. I genuinely did enjoy it. Yeah. Mark, what about you? What are your thoughts on this movie?
So I've come to the conclusion that I don't like slow mindfuck movies. This movie on paper, trying to describe it and even talking about it, it's going to sound good and interesting and fun and all of these things that make a movie enjoyable. I did not enjoy this movie, and it's not because of all of like the things that this movie's known for. So it kind of, oh man, the best way I can put it is I guess because I was thinking it was a horror movie, and at one point I thought it was a horror movie or like a science fiction movie,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's not. And then it's also kind of reeks of the artsy fartsy I went to film school type of thing, and that really kind of chaps my butt. I don't really like that where it's like, man, no, you don't get it. Like we were kind of joking back and forth in text, like Mark doesn't like cinema or whatever, you know.
Okay, that was Chris.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, but still, like I feel like Chris knows these people as well because he did in fact go to film school, for the lack of better terms. But these guys that make a movie like this, and it's like, no, it's my vision. I'm a filmmaker, and you're like, no, like you filmed a scene with Robert Pattinson jerking off, like, come on. But yeah, it kind of reeks of like artsy fartsy film school stuff, and I'm kind of not into it. But I'm gonna sit here for the next hour and say stuff, and I'm gonna be like, no, it's not as good as the sum of its parts. That's a great way to put it. I like the
Okay. Yeah.
acting. I like the acting. Uh, the story is kind of so. The cinematography's fine, but this should have been a short film that won an Oscar. It should have
Mm.
been 30 minutes, 45 at the most, win the Oscar for short film, and everyone's going to be like, man, this is great. Robert Pattinson's back, Willem Dafoe's back, everything else. The fact that this movie was an hour and a half, I feel is absolutely to its detriment. So, with all of that, I only have one thing to say. Where was Willem Dafoe's penis? Because I watched this movie with the intent of seeing two things. Robert Pattinson jacking off, which I did see,
You're welcome.
and Willem Dafoe's penis, like full frontal, like this thing knocking the camera over because he turned around too fast. Did not see it. Now I saw him naked. Did not see peen. Raven, where was the penis? This is 2024's greatest mystery.
You know, maybe they taped it up. Willem Dafoe was like, guys, if we put this in the movie, that's all it's going to be remembered for. They're not going to remember the story, the plot. They're not going to remember Robert Pattinson's ass while he's weirdly jerking off. They're not going to remember shit if we put my amazing, glorious penis in there. And so they were like, you're right, Mr. Dafoe. We will absolutely, I don't know, maybe he just doesn't have one. They just like, what is it? Where you just like take something out? Fuck. My brain just died for a second. Anyways,
Edit it
they were
out?
just like, yeah. They're like, we're gonna bleep that out. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
At one point, Chris looked over to me and was like, do you think we're gonna see Defoe's Little Willem? And I just looked at him for a few minutes. Like I like hard stared at him. And in my head, I was going, fuck, he beat me to it. And so I was just like, wow, Chris, that was really good. And so we did our like classic high five when one of us makes a really stupid joke. And I was just upset that because I had already thought of it, but I was waiting for a good moment and he hit it. And I was like, damn it. Chris and I share a brain sometimes.
Fantastic. I'm not upset. I love both of you equally.
So the start of this movie, where you know, they're just getting dropped off. Just like, here you go. You're going to stay on this little tiny island. And Willem Dafoe has been doing this for however long. And Robert Pattinson is completely new to this. And he's just watching that boat sail away and just like, well, fuck, this is me. And they're supposed to be there for 4 weeks. Robert Pattinson's being kind of a little shit at the beginning of the movie. But we see a mermaid out of nowhere, and he's just like, what? Like he's dreaming about mermaids? He's
Yeah.
seeing mermaids? What's going on here? We found a little mermaid in a very suspicious bed hole.
Yes.
Good old bed hole.
Yeah.
Where men spend 4, maybe more weeks just hanging out with another dude and their bed holes.
I mean, uh, come on, man. Like, it's only 4 weeks. You can be cool for 4 weeks, can't you?
Apparently not.
Man, I guess the 1890s were a wild time. Uh,
I mean, there was that scene where Robert Pattinson was, fixing up the shingles on the roof. And he just looks through that hole right above Willem Dafoe, and Willem Dafoe's getting his bed hole. And it just absolutely killed me.
yeah. You hear that defeated sigh in my voice? This was a. Yeah. Yeah, that
It
was
was
the thing.
so good, man. They said, let's take some liberties here.
Right. Right. Before we get too far into the craziness of this, did this movie seem like it was a Paul Thomas Anderson movie? Like the way it was shot and stylistic. Well, maybe not quite stylistically, but I don't know. Like the very first scene before it really started going crazy, I was looking at it like right at the beginning. Both of them hold this gaze in the camera for like a lot longer than it probably needs to be. And I'm like, this feels like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's black and white. We're already making stylistic choices here. Let's see where this goes. And I think this would be I guess if I had to kind of classify it, if Paul Thomas Anderson decided to go in a tense way instead of like the kind of whimsical kind of way. Does that make sense?
I had to look up, who Paul Thomas Anderson is to like realize which films you're trying to reference. I have not seen any of his movies, and I'm sorry.
What, we did one on this podcast, didn't we?
What movie?
The French Dispatch.
No, that was Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. Oh, my bad. Sorry. It's his brother. I was thinking Paul Thomas Anderson's brother, Wes Anderson. My bad.
Nice.
My
Okay,
bad.
yeah. I get what you're saying now. I was like, I have no idea what any of these movies are. I was like, maybe I've heard of some of these. Okay. Wes Anderson, yeah. I can definitely like see it almost being like one of his styles of movies.
Yep. All right. So there's Paul Thomas Anderson. There's P.T. Anderson, who did all the Resident Evil movies, and then there's Wes Anderson. So
Too many Andersons.
too many.
Get 'em out.
Too many Andersons.
Too many cooks.
Oh,
Anyways.
we might have to do a mini episode on just too many cooks.
God. So good.
What'd you think about the foghorn constantly playing in the back of this movie for an hour and a half?
So at some points, I was able to kind of zone it out. The parts where Robert Pattinson's character is like literally right up on it, I could not. He was trying to like put things in his ear. I would absolutely have a mental breakdown just because I'm very sensitive when it comes to sounds and stuff. And so with my job, I practically wear my AirPods on my noise canceling like almost the entire time because I cannot stand certain sounds. And that would absolutely drive me insane. I would not sleep. I would be so sleep deprived and I would absolutely jump off a cliff. 100%. I know that there's people that like move and then they end up living like right next to train railroads or stations and stuff. And I'm like, how do you get used to this? Because like sometimes They sound so scary. Like, it sounds like it's literally gonna come through your house. And it makes me so anxious. Like, I had a friend that one literally came right behind their, like, yard, and their yard wasn't huge. And so when we would all go over and hang out and be, like, talking and whatever, and it would come through, like, the people that weren't used to going over there were all like, So I think that scares me. The foghorn is even louder than that. That would scare me even more.
Well, I think you kind of get used to it because
So loud.
my dad used to live next to some railroad tracks, and when I got out of the military and lived with him for a couple months, uh, you know, after a while I did get used to it. So, and sure, and it would come through at 2 in the morning, and of course they're just "Mrrr." So yeah, I'm sure it's probably because by the end of the film, the foghorn's white noise to me. So
Yeah. Well, maybe they also kind of did like one of those things where they're like, we're going to kind of shut her down a little bit. Yeah, no, that was insane.
what did you think of specifically Willem Dafoe's accent choice in this movie?
It was interesting. I definitely was like, yo, I'm going to need subtitles for this 100%.
It
Just
was
like,
it,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I got used to it, but at the same time, like the fact that he sounded like Mr. Krabs was kind of like my
Oh,
own personal enjoyment for this movie. I want you to scrub the deck, and if he would have just been like, "I need me $1," I would have. It would have been the greatest movie ever. Um,
that would have
but
been pretty good. Yeah.
So, oh, and I absolutely clocked. I put it in my notes. 20 minutes in, I said that Robert Pattinson is going to kill Willem Dafoe. I clocked it pretty early on in the movie. It's like I don't know how, but Willem Dafoe's going to die by the end of this thing.
Yeah, he
So,
was an absolute dick, and I'm surprised he didn't get killed by someone else sooner. Like, he's literally like, you're behind on your fucking chores, like the whole time. And Pattinson's just like, hello? I'm the only one doing stuff. You're just over there getting naked and standing in front of the light the whole time. Like, what's going on here, man? So I don't blame him for wanting to, like, absolutely wreck that man. Also, the fact that Willem Dafoe's character was a straight alcoholic.
oh,
Like,
absolutely.
the only medicine is drink. On God, my good sir.
And it was clear liquor too. It wasn't like that good kind of like brown liquor. Oh man, we don't know what's in this bottle. No, it was absolutely clear. So that limits it to like a
I
very
swear to
few
God,
things.
that man's over there just drinking Everclear by the way
Probably.
that their faces were. It was awful. It
He is
had to be Everclear.
he is absolutely drinking jet fuel. No doubt in my mind.
Listening to Robert, not Robert, Willem Dafoe's character talk about like some of the do's and don'ts of like if you are in the sea and blah blah blah, and the fact that you like you're not supposed to be mean to seagulls because it's supposed to be like people who have died on the ocean are like their souls are there. I was like, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Like, hearing some of those things was kind of cool. I didn't know if other people knew that or if it's just because I'm like, I don't know nothing about water. It's scary.
I don't know anything about like ships and stuff. Like the lore of the sea. I don't know any of that stuff. I love swimming in the ocean, and that's pretty much about it. Um, but like the lore, unless it is Greek mythology related and conveyed to me through Percy Jackson books, don't know any of it. So,
Oh, earlier while Chris and I were out to lunch at Buffalo Wild Wings, the game that was on in front of me was Notre Dame versus the Navy. And Chris and I were like, what the heck is the Navy's mascot? Because I was like, I bet it's a shark. And Chris was like, a ship. Ha ha ha. He looked and it's a goat. And we were both like, what the heck? Why is there a goat? And so it literally said underneath that most ships would carry a goat with them due to the fact that it was always able to produce milk so you could have like milk, butter, and cheese. And I was like, oh, that's actually smart. Okay. I fuck with their mascot now.
Hmm.
And I never would have known that. So you learn things every day about the ocean,
Yeah. Huh.
right?
See,
Like,
we
never would
are
have
an
guessed.
informative podcast. You know,
Hi, welcome to our I
come
don't
on.
even know.
I don't know where you're going. I'm here for it, but I
This is our natural history podcast. I don't
sure.
know. I almost said like science, and I was like, this isn't science.
It can be science.
I'm awful at science. Don't talk to me about science. Don't talk to me about math either. Oh my god,
Oh
no.
man, come on. It's just numbers.
Yeah, and my brain don't do numbers. Trust me. Uh,
So at the 40-minute mark, or around the 40-minute mark,
okay.
I thought for sure that we were going to get a very different movie, because that is when Robert Pattinson goes up to the lighthouse and looks through the grates, and we see, I guess it's him losing his mind. I'm going to ask for your opinion on what you think it really was, or the what appears to be some type of weird alien sea creature tail. What do you think that really was, besides the beginning of Rob Pattinson losing his mind?
I was pretty curious about it. I mean, the fact that Willem Dafoe was like so obsessed with being the one to go up to the light, and we definitely saw him naked up there at the light for whatever reason, and he's over there like, I mean, Willem Dafoe's up there just jacking off straight up. And Robert Pattinson was like in the shot of it all. Poor man. So he sees that, and then he sees slithering around. I don't know. I'm like, is there like a crazy alien octopus that like is somewhere living up there? Because at that one point when the like at the very end when the light opens and like Robert Pattinson is just like staring into it, I was like, are we gonna see whatever this is? And we didn't. So I don't know. I don't know if he's supposed to be going crazy or if there was a different intent.
Yeah, it was. I really thought at this point we were going to start to really get some sci-fi, like some weird sci-fi shit, and it didn't happen. And then that immediately followed up with Rob Pattinson killing that seagull in the
And
wildest way.
he said, fuck this goal. You ain't shit. He went so hard on that thing. And then Willem Dafoe at some point's like, I watched you. He's like, no, you didn't. I love the way that both of them, in their own weird way, one of them would say something and the other would just like completely deny it. Just the whole time. I
Yeah,
was like, okay, sure. Yeah. Nobody knows the truth here. Willem Dafoe was going hard at one point of just being like, nope, you're crazy. Look at all this weird shit you're doing. You just tried to kill me with an axe after Willem Dafoe was chasing him with the axe.
right.
So it's another one of those things of like, are we supposed to see it from Robert Pattinson's perspective where he thinks all this crazy shit is happening, but Willem Dafoe is actually like, nah, you're actually just weird. But Willem Dafoe was telling him different stories about how his leg got fucked up. So it's like, have you had too much drink? Where's the truth, me brother?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it is weird to see like who's actually telling the truth. And that is part of this movie that you're like, "Oh man, under any other circumstances this would be a good this seems like this could really be a fun premise to go with." But it's just such a slow burn. So slow that yeah. And then like this is like just past the halfway point in the movie because I made a note like, oh hey, we're at the halfway point. But um, the last half of this movie to me should have been the majority of this movie, where the boat doesn't show up, and now we descent for real into madness. You know, has it been days? Has it been weeks? You know, they start arguing like a married couple when they're drunk. Like, you don't,
Yeah.
I don't even like your food. He's like, do you take that back? You love
Dude,
my
that
food.
killed me. He's like, I just want a steak. I just want a steak. Alright, fuck it. And I was like, okay. That was wild. The fact that Robert Pattinson had to say that was insane. But yeah, no, Thomas is over there like, you like my lobster. You like it. Stop denying it. I was like, okay, what we got going on here? We also have like extreme drunk, like we start fist fighting so hardcore, and then at some point they're just dancing and singing together and almost kiss.
Almost?
It was interesting. There's a lot going on in this
Right.
last half of the movie, and it was kind of wild, but I was kind of here for it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. And we also like I guess the more of the descent into madness, you know, you kind of brought it up earlier when uh the he's being chased by Willem Dafoe with the axe, and he's like, no, but you were chasing me with the axe. He's sitting there rehearsing his speech. I think it's the speech that he's going to give to the authorities, or was it for the one guy that he killed already? As he's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you know, like, oh, he was just there, he fell or something, or whatever he said. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, so maybe all of this really is just part of Robert Pattinson's imagination. Because right outside the door, you hear Willem Dafoe say something, and then he has to go find him, and all this. So yeah, and
Uh,
go ahead.
if no, you can go ahead
Okay,
if you
so
need to.
oh well, I was just gonna say that at one point, like really the part of the movie that I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it really I was laughing like a buffoon was when Robert Pattinson goes on his rants. I think it might have been the where they're talking about the no, it was after the you don't like my food scene, but he's just like he gets like this weird Boston accent that kind of comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Oh my god, you farts, you fucking farts!"
Dude, it
Ah,
was so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
the
no.
way he
That
said
one
it.
killed me. It was so good.
I'm gonna get
He
a
just went
tattoo of
off, and I
Robert
was like,
Pattinson's face, and it just says, "You fucking farts."
dude, I looked at Chris and I was just like, he gets it. uh, I was just gonna bring up the mermaid. There was,
Oh, okay, please.
yeah, so, Robert Pattinson had given his back lore of like, oh, I was working at a lumbering place in Washington or Oregon, wherever. And he's basically talking about how one guy ended up just like dying in front of him, and he was just like, "Yeah, I gotta leave now. This is crazy." And I'm like, did we get the full view of one, what was going on with that? And you can definitely tell that it's like something that's very much on his mind, but at the same time, uh, there's that one scene where he sees the mermaid, and somehow him and the mermaid are going at it, and he like also like pictures the dude that like fell in front of him. There was a lot going on in that one like weird scene.
Yeah,
But that mermaid was able to sexually reproduce. Interesting. I don't know if you caught that. That mermaid definitely had a vagina. It was
oh
weird.
yeah, oh yeah.
I was
Um,
like, what?
Yeah,
Never seen that in The Little Mermaid.
I have in my notes. Uh, was this a mermaid pussy I just seen? Uh,
Yeah.
and now I have a crying Robert Pattinson half naked on my screen. Um, if there was anything that sums up this movie more, was that note right there. If you hear those words and say, "I gotta check this out," then
Right.
you know what you're in for. This is the descent into madness. Do yourself a favor, look up just a modicum of research on this one particular scene, and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very interesting. Uh, so, there was a lot going on with like their whole like weird fights after like the storm came through, and then Robert Pattinson just starts beating the shit out of Willem Dafoe. And he's like bark like a dog. And like that whole scene in itself, chaos, absolute insanity. I'm like, how did you guys go here? You guys have been eating. I get that you've been drinking. You haven't been drinking water, so maybe that's throwing off your fucking game. How are your brains so dysfunctional that Willem Dafoe is going to bark and then he's just going to hands and knees it and pretend to be a dog?
Yeah,
That was
that
a
was
wild scene.
that was very wild. I don't even know. I don't even know what to make of that. There's so much going on, dude. Like, I don't know.
And
I
then he's
think,
just like burying him. And Willem Dafoe's just like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
whatever.
I think by the time we got to this point in the movie, I was like, I'd done kind of clocked out a little bit. I was like, all right, man, I'm ready to go. You know,
That's fair.
so
And then they became moths because they're so, you know, well, actually, well, in my notes, I was like, bet furries love this scene for that, obviously. Um, and then he just like takes a whole axe to the head. I was like, okay, all
yeah,
right. Well, you definitely get to go look at your lamp now because you guys are a bunch of freaking moths. And you, oh, oh,
oh, get him, Kavik,
mudslide, shut up. Hey, shut the fuck up.
get him,
Mudslide,
get him.
stop instigating the shit. If you keep boofing, he's gonna bark again. Stop. That's right. Be a good boy and go back to sleep. Thank you. And this is why Chris normally has the dogs. But he working this weekend. Anyways, um, yeah, no, they're basically both just like moths because they're like, I need the light, brother. Uh, and so he finally goes up there, and then the light opens, and it goes crazy, and then Robert Pattinson is being eaten by seagulls.
Yep.
That
So
last scene was, I kind of dug it, not gonna lie.
so is
That's
the
how I should go out.
oh, we can only hope. So
Ah,
is this whole movie just like his final thoughts as he's dying?
fuck, maybe. Maybe he's like, this is how I remember my life. It's like, I hope it's not how you remember your life. That's awful. But maybe this is the true chaos of what you deserve. Because you watched some guy, or maybe pushed some guy and killed him while you were in the logging industry. Who knows?
Crazy.
All right. I told you I didn't want you to have the salt burn effect. I think I'm going to state my facts, or my feelings. I think that salt burn was definitely on a different scale of craziness to this.
It was.
Okay, good.
It
Like,
it absolutely was, but Saltburn is kind of like the closest I can kind of say, like, to the layperson. If someone was like, "What's this movie like?" and I'd be like, "Have you ever seen Saltburn?" That slow kind of like, we're gonna get there, but a bunch of messed up stuff's gonna happen until we get there. That's what this feels like. It's not. Other than that, like, there's no really like real direct comparison to it, but just the tone of it, I think, where you're just like,
okay.
where all this stuff is happening and you feel kind of awkward and weird. Saltburn makes you feel way more awkward way more often, but that kind of, just like I said, slow burn, and you're like, oh man, I feel weird and uncomfortable. So
That's fair. I know what you're talking about because the first time that I watched Hereditary, I kind of had that vibe. It definitely has like that slow, there's not much going on. But let me tell you about Midsommar. I don't think you've watched that one.
I have
And that
not.
is another slow, painful movie that I think is probably worse than both of those movies because it has way more gore and it's like it's the most absurd thing ever. It's so interesting to watch, but another part of me is like, I don't know if I could actually watch that one again. But that's how I felt about Hereditary, and I was able to watch Hereditary again and be completely fine. So maybe I could watch it again.
Hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, I get the category that you're trying to figure out. It's a rough category.
It is. It is. And I really thought we might have to extend like spooky season out like one more week, because I really thought we were going to go for something fun like Megan or Nightmare on Elm Street, or like some random Friday the 13th movie when Jason is like in his prime, you know.
Oh God.
Um just
And
just
I
some
chose this.
just something like that, and you chose this one. And I'm like, "Oh man." Like, here's the thing. Yesterday I woke up for some. Oh well, I know why I woke up. In the middle of the night, a couple nights ago, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning because a mosquito bit me on my arm. So I wake up and I'm like just digging in my arm like a dog, and I'm like, oh, this is horrible. So I get up, I like try to wash the spot off, and now I'm up. So now it's 2:30 in the morning, and I see the text from you that you sent Thursday going, hey, can we record Saturday? I'm like, yeah, sure. So, like, well, no better time than the present because I'm awake. So it is like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm watching this movie.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I was hoping for something. I don't know if lighthearted's the word, but just something not quite so heavy. Because even when Jason's running around killing people, I'm still like, yeah, pick him up by the sleeping bag and sling him up against that tree. You know, even in Nightmare on Elm Street movie, when like by the third one, when everything Freddy says is a catchphrase, he's like, "Snarty night, bitch." Like that is
So true.
would have been vastly more up my alley, but instead, Raven, you chose the Lighthouse. So, but it's all good. It's all good.
You know what?
Part
Let's
of
let's
the
extend spooky season, considering the fact that Halloween is on a Thursday.
okay,
Seems a little unfair.
it does. And I also want to say this. I said all of that in jest, because part of the purpose of this podcast is us both watching movies that we haven't seen before. Fast and Furious, Twilight. We see a movie that comes across our feed and then we're like, oh, hey, this looks cool. I went in this movie completely blind, not knowing wholeheartedly what I was going to get. So I am not upset. I think there's only been one time when I've called you and been like, this ain't happening. And that was
Yeah.
for what movie was that?
I don't even remember. I think it was another like
It was another
horror
slow. It
type.
was another slow
Yeah.
burn horror type of movie, but it was like the girl who was like tied to her bed for the whole movie, and it was like really giving off like some real kind of sexual assault type of vibes, and I was just like, no, I can't really do
I
that.
don't
Like
even
this is
remember
weird.
what it was. Yeah.
So
But no, I remember you being like, this ain't the vibe, man.
yeah, I was just not in the mood for it, man.
It happens.
So all right,
I
you
mean,
got anything? You got anything else for Lighthouse?
no, I will recommend to watch this um if you're into like weird kind of movies, but if you want something lighthearted, this ain't the one for you, babe.
This falls into that category of go ahead and watch it once, get it out of your system. You'll be happy
Just so
you
you can
did.
make the jokes.
Right, just so you can make the jokes. So
That's all you need.
yeah. So all right, let's move on to my favorite part of the week, and that is where we talk about the things that have made us happy. Raven, please tell me what has made you happy this week.
Mine's pretty easy peasy, a little basic, but I drive around quite a bit, so I get to see everyone's big Halloween like decorated yards. And sometimes like I see some stuff and I'm like, man, I wish some of these neighborhoods would actually decorate. And then you find other houses that are like, this is the best time of the year. This is all we care about. And those are my favorite like houses to drive past. And it's just so fun. Like I went to one house for like the first time ever, and their neighbors had like a giant headless horseman in their front yard, and that was super cool. And like down the road, another neighbor had like a big arch of like hand carved those like styrofoam pumpkins or whatever they are that you can get at like Michael's. They had carved a bunch of faces into those. They made a big arc for their archway or their walkway, and then they like put like a ton of them all around their just like everywhere in their yard, and it looks so cool. And I love seeing people's like big blow ups or all the even the silly goofy like cobwebs and the like goofy little skeletons or ghosts that people put up. But like genuinely, that's what's made me really happy this week because I'm just like, man, I love this, but I haven't been like able to really go do stuff to like go and look at it. So I'm glad that I can at least do that while I'm at work. But yeah, that's been me.
Cool.
What about you? What's made you happy?
Uh, did I tell you the story of how I became the salsa man?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so this probably been about a month ago now. I took Alice to a birthday party that was also like a dance of some sort. It was like a legit birthday party. So she was like, "Oh, it's at like this little uh, uh, not convention center, but event space or whatever." And I took her to it, and right next to this place, it was kind of in like a strip mall type thing. Right next to it was a real deal Mexican restaurant, like taco place. I'm like, oh snap, I'm gonna go
Mm.
in here and get some tacos before I leave to go back home. And I'm sitting in there. I order my food. I sit down, and as I'm sitting there waiting on my food to get ready, Alice comes in, and I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, oh well, they're not quite ready yet, so me and my friends are just kind of walking around, and I saw you in here, so I came in to say hey. And I said, okay, hey. And I'm giving her this look like, that's weird, but okay, like go hang out with your friends.
Mm.
And I had like the little containers of salsa you can get from like the real deal Mexican restaurant salsa bar that I had like scooped in myself and everything was ready to go. She's like, "Can I have this salsa?" And I was like, "Sure." And I look back and see her friends at the door, and I'm like, "Go hang out with your friends." Well, she goes out, and a couple of her friends don't know who I am, so they were like, they were like, "Did that guy just give you salsa?" And Alice played it up perfectly. Goes, "Yeah." She's like, "Did you know them?" or did you know him? And Alice is like, no. So now, here I am, the salsa man. Now, she never let anyone else in on the joke, and none of her friends let the other people in on the joke. So fast forward a week later, this salsa man shows up to the chorus concert. And she starts telling her friends, hey, I think the salsa man from that one restaurant's here at the show. So now the salsa man has showed up to the show. And as we're leaving, me and Alice are walking out to the truck. And I'm like, hey, did you ever tell your friends that, that I'm the salsa man, like I'm your dad and stuff? She goes, oh, hold on a second. She leans back. She calls her friend. She's like, hey, look, it's the salsa man. And she goes,
my God.
hey, salsa man. So earlier on this week, me and Alice just impromptu went and ate dinner at the Waffle House, and it was fantastic, by the way. The cheapest and best meal that we've had in months, Waffle House. Still goated. We were coming back, and Alice played this song that was absolutely horrible and filmed my reaction to it and then sent it to one of her friends. And her friend replied back and said, oh, no, not the salsa man not liking the song or something.
Oh.
And he listens to the show. What's up, Tony? So, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, I listen to the show. I said, no, you don't, because I check the numbers. You don't listen to the show. So, but hopefully he listens to this one.
Got his ass. That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. I love Alice's friends, man. They are a trip, and they all seem like pretty good kids. So until they give me a reason not to like them, I genuinely think they're all pretty cool. So yeah.
Nice.
Raven, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on the social medias?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Raven Ellis. I, like you, Mark, think I am going to jump off the Twitter ban. It makes me sad, honestly. I've been on there for like so long. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I do love, I'm not going to lie to you right now. I love drama and like people just shit talking. I know that a lot of people are like, ugh, I hate when people do this. But Chris has recently joined the Blue Skies, and I thought he was on Twitter because their feed looks so similar. And he was like, no, and it's just nice here. And I think you should get on here so you stop having so much like negative shit on your feeds and whatnot. And I was like, well, okay. So currently I'm just on Instagram. The show, however, is called Nerd for No Reason, and you can find it on whatever platforms you want except for TikTok, because we here hate TikTok and TikTok hates us, and that's okay. Look us up. Mark, what about you?
I, for one, love our TikTok overlords, and I really hope they reinstate us. But for some reason, they don't like us. But I love me some TikTok. It is super addictive. It is the heroin that I need in my veins. So, so yeah, I am on the Blue Sky as well. So I'm pretty sure it's at Turtles Do It, which is pretty much my handle on just about everything. So hit me up on Instagram at Turtles Do It. Hit me up on the Blue Sky at Turtles Do It. You can hit me up on Twitter, but I genuinely don't think I've logged on to Twitter in like a month now, because I cannot, for the absolute life of me, get my algorithm to show me anything but political stuff. I have tried and tried and tried everything in my power and have looked up repeatedly the stuff that I wanted to look up, blocked news sources just for me to get the same stories from a different source, and it is just terrible. So I uninstalled the app, and Facebook is next. Facebook, your days are numbered.
Yeah, get gone.
So
it sucks.
Yeah. So, but other than that, man, like, hit me up on Blue Sky, I guess, or Threads or Instagram at Turtles Do It. Man, I love you guys. Thanks so much for listening. It's still my favorite part of the week. I love it. It's great. I love hanging out. We are coming up on our second full year. Next week will be the start of our third year. This is probably like our actual 2-year anniversary. We'll celebrate it next week. Why not?
Yeehaw.
But Raven, thank you. I know I do this every year, but I want to say thank you for being my co-host. Thank you for doing this with me. This is absolutely so much fun, sitting here and talking movies and talking shit and trauma dumping and all of this other fun stuff that we get to do is great. And thank you.
Well, thank you as well, because, you're kind of the brains behind all this. You're the one that does most of the stuff. I don't know how to soundboard, mixing cues, whatever all that stuff is. So congratulations. Happy 2 years to you. Thanks, man.
And with that, everybody in the world, in the universe, go and do something wonderful in the world today.
You guys go and just all the coolest, newest, spookiest medias, and we'll see you again next week on the Nerd for No Reason podcast. Have a safe Halloween. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Nerd for No Reason podcast. You can find us on all major social media platforms at Nerd for No Reason. Our podcast music is Memories in 8-Bit by Deanna Joan, aka Fergie's Human. You can follow her on Twitter at Deanna Joan Music and check out her other social media links in the show notes of our podcast.